Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, sometimes it's the simplest of ideas that are actually the most terrifying, and on that note, if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to assume that you do because, well, let's face it, you're listening. You're listening right now. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Give us the old 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts. We're pretty much everywhere. We're Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, anywhere you get your podcast, really. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, and we're on the Instagram, as the kids call it. You guessed it, we're at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and we do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, guess what? We love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a fun one. If anyone's looking for a new show on their favorite streaming service to get a little freaky with, we found one for you. It is on Paramount Plus right now, and it is called From. And it's from the executive producers and makers of Lost, and it's about a mystery in a small city town in the middle of USA that seems to imprison everyone who enters, and the residents, while they're there, have to struggle to maintain a sense of normalcy, but also seek a way out as they try to survive the impending threats of the forest that surrounds them. It's a simple, but it's a beautiful it's a beautiful thing to watch, man, because it is creepy as hell, and it is a hell of a lot of fun. And all of the first season is now available on Paramount Plus, so if you don't already have Paramount Plus, please do go check that out, because it's a damn good service. But we had the unique pleasure of sitting down with the star of the show, Mr. Harold Perrineau, just to talk about the origins of it all and why he said yes, and this interesting guy that he plays, and just diving into such a simple but really sort of human, complex issue that these characters having to deal with, because it's a horror show, really, but it's not a horror show that's about sort of the scares or the gore or the blood. It's really psychological. It really takes you into sort of the character depths of survival and what these people have to go through. And it's really a fascinating character study, to be perfectly honest, for all these actors. And we talked with Harold about sort of leading an ensemble, playing stuff like that, and playing in a similar reign as Lost, but, you know, different at the same time, and so very, very much more. He was a lovely guy to talk to. But go check out this brand new show, which is on Paramount Plus, which I cannot recommend highly enough. Like I said, it is called From. It is creepy as hell. But first, enjoy our talk with Harold Perrineau, because between you and me, it's a darn good one. All right, well, Harold, obviously, first off, man, just thank you so much for the time today. I appreciate this.
Hey, Dave, thank you for talking to me. I'm really excited about From finally being here in Canada. So it's exciting for me. So I appreciate it.
Man, I'll tell you, man, I got the screeners, man. I got hooked. I binged it all, man. I friggin' loved it, man. It is
good.
It's dark. I got hooked immediately, man. I mean,
good.
That's sort of the early days of you getting the pitch to be involved in the show.
So like really early on. So a good friend of mine is the casting director, right? His name is Seth Yanklowitz. And Seth calls me up and says, "Hey, I want to pitch you for this film. I don't think they're looking for your type, but I think you are this guy." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "And the big problem is the producers are from Lost, and they don't want any Losties in it." I was like, "Oh, well then what are we talking about?" Like, if they don't want anybody from Lost, like, what are we talking about? He's like, "I think this is you. I think this is you. Read it. Let me know." So I read it, and I was like, "Yes, please. Yes, can I be in this thing? Like, what do we have to do?" And so we went back, and he went back and he talked to Jack Bender and Jeff Pinkner, and then they thought like, well, yeah, maybe. And then we all got on the phone together, and then we started talking, and it's like, no, actually, yeah, that's right. I think you are this guy. And I was like, I think so too. And so that's how we wound up going. Like everybody wound up saying yes. They all signed off, and I was in. The writing is so great by John Griffin, and so I was like, yeah, let's do it. Those are the early days of starting with From.
Well, and I mean, that's the thing, because I mean, obviously the Lost comparisons are going to be kind of there, but the second you get into it, it's like, no, this is a different beast. I mean, was that what kind of hooked you? Like the similar but the same kind of vibe?
Exactly. It was similar, but it's its own mythology. And so I really, really liked it. And look, I also get to be the lead in this one too, which was something that, is really interesting as for my career and as a challenge as an actor. So like those things are really interesting too. But yeah, once you get into it, you realize it's a really different place. And I can't wait to figure out what's happening with this place as well. We all like a really interesting puzzle. And so this is a really interesting puzzle that we have to put together and figure out how these people are going to survive this thing. Like, how are we going to do it? And so I'm having fun with that. And yeah, all those things, just like Lost, but completely different. So yeah.
Now, I mean, how did you find this guy? Because I mean, he has to be this sort of beacon of hope where there is no hope, and sort of keep that thread, that threadbare humanity.
Well, look, I would say that almost every actor I know has to experience that in their whole lives. Like, there is no way you actually are going to get to be an actor, because there are millions of actors out there, and you have to keep this like beacon of hope in your whole life. Like, come on, I can do it, with everybody telling you no. And I think that's similar. Oh, there's the cannon that went off. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
It's 12 o'clock. But every actor I know has to go through that. I as well. And so that's the thing that's really familiar to me, like looking for a way where there is no way, like making a path that's original and your own, because there is no other path. It makes sense to me in my life. And so it's easy to transfer to Boyd, given, the circumstances of where they are and what they're doing. So
what is it about series work like this that allows actors more room to sort of move and work with the character? Because this isn't necessarily like a 6-week shoot on a movie where you're coming in and coming out. You actually get time with this guy.
Right. And that's exactly the thing. This is like a really great book, right? You just you find out new things in each page that you turn. And the book doesn't end just like, in an hour. You've got like hopefully years to like keep learning and discovering and exploring things. And so that's what, for me as an actor, and I really, really love being an actor, that's the fun of it. Like, it never gets stale, because there's going to be some new wrinkle every episode. There's some new thing that we find out every time. And in a series like From, it's always a life or death question too. Like, you make the wrong mistake, and you are monster food. So it's really fun and interesting to watch people try to figure out how to survive in that, how to still have hope for life in that, how to still have connections with their family in that. And that's really interesting to me.
How do you as an actor sort of keep levity in sort of a project like this? Because I mean, obviously, even the scripted lighter moments are still very heavy because of just the situation these characters are in.
Well, I don't worry about the light stuff. I let Sean Majumder do it. He's the funniest guy I know. So when Sean shows up, we go like, it's going to be funny, you guys. Like, let it roll. And so on set, he's really fun, and he's so smart and such a great guy. And so I don't worry about the levity. He just makes us laugh like all day long. And so that like swings us through sometimes really dark nights. And so he's good. That's what
I gotta ask, if you could talk to the young man who was on Fame years and years ago, like what would you say?
I would tell him, hey, don't fret, because he fretted a lot. That young guy, he was worried a lot. Don't fret. It's all going to be so cool and way different than you ever thought. Like, I couldn't have imagined the ride that I've been on. It's been so, people ask me all the time, hey, what do you want to do next? And I go, I can't think about it, because I couldn't have picked half the things I've already done. I would never have seen Romeo and Juliet coming. I had no idea it was coming down the pipe. The Matrix was a thing that was like, what just happened? And Lost was its own ride altogether. You know, after I had a family and all this other stuff, and we went on that Lost ride. So I would just tell that guy, don't fret. It's going to be all good. You're right.
I mean, just to put a bow on this, and I mean, this is something I've got to ask because you've had such an interesting career with such a wide sort of array of really fantastic character driven parts. And I mean, I'm curious, was there something you saw as a young Harold back in the day that made sort of the light bulb go off that made you want to be an actor?
Well, at first it started like really young, and I don't really understand why. Like this kid in Brooklyn was like watching Fred Astaire movies and thinking like, hey, that would be fun to do. But I was that weirdo kid who was like watching old musicals, and I really, really liked them. And I thought it would be really fun to do. So when I found my way to it, that was really cool. But in finding my way to it, you know, the world of Brooklyn opened up, and I suddenly became really fascinated with what was outside of Brooklyn. And it was just so much because, you know, when you're young, your hometown, that feels like all there is. That feels like the whole world. And then when the world opened up, I was like, oh, snap, like there's all that? I'm going to go find out what that is. And so that's been the real great joy and the privilege I've had throughout my whole career, to constantly be exploring these different points of view and perspectives. And it really helps me as a human being, like, because I can understand other human beings and really why they make some of the choices they make, whether you think they're good or bad. Like we all make them from often really, really personal places in our hearts. And so that's really been interesting for me.
Well, you know what, man? I think you've done that here with From, because I mean, it's one of those things that, I mean, on one end, it's not afraid to get dark and grim and really sort of lean into the genre element of it, but it's such an interesting character study to see all these people interacting with one another in this impossible situation. And I mean, it's fantastic to watch, man. I can't wait for people to see it. And dude, congrats again. Congrats on season 2. And I mean, hell.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
I look forward to talking to you for season 2, man.
I can't wait. Next year, I'll be right here, man, looking for you.
Absolutely, brother. But again, congrats on the show, and thank you so much
Thanks,
for
Dave.
today.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you, man. Take care.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.